I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about why I still play RuneScape, old school RuneScape specifically, in 2025, Warframe in 2025, why I keep coming back to them despite being a huge casual with the game. In Warframe, I'm not mastery rank 5,000. I don't have every prime maxed out. I have spent money to, make things go quicker whenever I just wanted a drop. I would buy the thing and support the game that I have a few hundred hours in. In RuneScape, I don't have 99 in every skill. I had an account with a 99. At this point, my main account doesn't even have a 99 right now. I've not done most of the quests. I haven't seen most of the in-game content that a lot of the YouTubers like, and I've never been great at PKing. But I still come back to these games as a filthy casual, and they mean a ton to me personally. I'm coming off of just having recorded a video about casual gamers and casual gaming and how the space and the room for that has been erased. I'll have a link to it in the description. And I'm kind of using my fuel of my own rhetoric in that video because I wanted to make a video. I've been playing some old school RuneScape lately, going through some mining and crafting guides again, doing some quests to kind of get some boons, introduced my kid to it, which was amazing. He's finally at the age to start learning new games, and he thought my RuneScape was pretty cool. Minecraft's been his primary game so far. And of course, I logged back into Warframe for a little bit too. And I wanted to make a video about it, but then I got all in my head. I was like, no, there's so much, I've been watching a lot of Colinello's videos about the history of all these things that I either heard myths about or barely encountered in the game and never really knew a whole full picture about. And the videos are really good. And I get in my head with that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't have any authority about RuneScape or Warframe. I haven't mastered it. I haven't put the 5 million hours into it. I haven't no-lifed it for the past 20 years. Who am I to make a video about it? Who wants to watch it? But coming off of that last video, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to make a video about why I keep coming back to these games and why they matter so much for the casual player. RuneScape and Warframe are both kind of investment games. They're games that the gameplay itself doesn't necessarily evolve or change all that much once you do kind of the gist of it into the end game. But there's at least a little bit of a skill ceiling where things could really ramp up should you want to take that investment. And it's a game where, to get to the depth of it, you want to wiki dive or really get involved with the community to learn every little detail. Otherwise, you're going to move a lot slower and understand a lot less about the game. That makes them super great for the hardcore players that want to only play that game, no life it, and put a bajillion hours into it. But it also, in a weird way, even though some of the depth isn't super accessible with the whole wiki dive aspect, it makes them accessible to casual players because they are super easy to just grasp the basics of. With RuneScape, it is just a clicker game. You don't even move around with WASD, even though we always wanted to be able to do so back in the day. You click to walk, you can follow people, you click to combat. The entire game is just clicking on things. Whether it's an enemy player, an NPC you're fighting, a rock or a tree or a plant or a bank, you are just left clicking on things for most of the game. It is as accessible as it gets. Could be played in a web browser on any platform for a decade, and now they have their own tools, and of course RuneLite is the best way to play old school RuneScape these days, but you can run it on Steam Deck and mobile now and all sorts of stuff. Warframe is a bit more complicated. It's a looter shooter kind of. It's not first person, it's third person, but you're like a space ninja, but you're also shooting guns. It's pretty crazy. But once you get the basics of just kind of flowing through the combat, it doesn't take much to pick up and put down, and you can plow through the star charts and get a lot of good time in the game. And it only gets really complicated when you want to start figuring out the advanced quests or the unlock systems or whatever. And the same thing with RuneScape. You can do basic skilling without having any idea what you're doing. But if you want to min-max or optimize builds or start doing these more advanced quests, it's a layer to unpack that allows you to really discover what you like in a video game. I think RuneScape was instrumental in me discovering what I like in video games. It was arguably it was definitely my first MMO. It was one of my first big multiplayer games. I was introduced to it by a friend in middle school. This was right around when RuneScape 2 had just come out. And I had made an account. It was the stupidest name. It was Adam. I couldn't find a username. I didn't have a common username or handle at the time. And I couldn't find one that worked. So I was Adam_02252. And I wound up selling that account to a classmate, which was everyone thought was real dumb because he's like, why would you want a name with Adam's name or an account with Adam's name on it or whatever? But unbeknownst to them, I had actually took part in phishing another account, dark side of my past in the Epos Fox Lost Saves lore here. And so I was playing on that at the time. And so I didn't care about the account that I had started with. I wish I'd kept it just for history's sake, posterity's sake. I love having those things. I do not have access to that account anymore. If anyone can get me access, I guess that'd be dope. But the name probably got released in 2017. I don't know. Anyway, it was one of my first games where like I could play with my buddies. It wasn't this kind of scary, you're going to get abducted kind of online scenario that my mom was worried about with a lot of online exchanges at the time. It didn't cost money to do most of what I wanted to do or knew how to do. And it allowed me to learn a lot of the social dynamics of playing games with people and to learn what I liked with regards to a game that had such a big sandbox of like obsessive goal chasing, questing, the role play elements on top of like merching and PvP combat and things like that. And I learned that like I like the idea of PvP stuff, but I didn't have the no life capability to learn tick manipulation, which wasn't really a popular thing. Like no one necessarily knew about that at the time, or like I didn't have the hours to grind to get the best gear for billions of GP, didn't have party hats. I didn't, I couldn't no life it, but on my dial-up connection at home and when we were at school, like we could pull it up in any browser so we could play it anywhere. And it was just a safe, widely accessible gateway into me learning so many things about what I liked about video games and how to interact with video games with people. And Warframe was one of those games where I could just put my head down and I could experience it with people or ask help from the community with people, or I could just go all in on my own playing the game. And I think in that way, those games have grown with me. When I was a kid and had no time to no life games and the wikis and skilling guides and stuff we see these days were not widely accessible when I was playing RuneScape. Videos were not even really a thing. I still remember the low frame rate captures of the Falador massacre right at the start of the web video days. Like that wasn't a thing. And so everything was shrouded in mystery. Everyone had their own way. My buddy, I think I told this story in another video. My buddy had his own little shop where he'd sell just basic, cow hides or whatever. And he'd just stand by Wizard's Tower and was a merchant for people. And not even like one of the really popular ones you'd hear about in like videos these days, but just a basic merchant where you could buy things at reasonable prices that he collected as he just grinded the game. It started out as a game for me that I could wrap my head around what I could and play at the level of investment and time and low skill that I was at. And then as I've become an adult, I've had more time to be able to more min-max, skilling, to start leveling things up better, to start really getting into the questing and to learn more advanced stuff. Like just this past weekend, I wanted something brainless that wasn't brain rotty YouTube shorts anymore to put some time into. I hadn't found any mobile games that were really scratching my itch at the moment. So I just pulled up RuneScape. My kiddo was playing Minecraft. I pulled up RuneScape and I wanted to start working on my mining XP. That's always just the holy grail for me. And so I start doing some basic mining and I'm like, all right, I got to look up another skill guide. I'm sure there's a better spot. Do I want to power mine? Do I want to bank it so I can sell it or smith it or whatever? And I wound up multiple layers deep in a rabbit hole because it's like, all right, to get to level 60, because I was at like 35, you want to be in this one spot. I'm like, okay, easy. And it's like, but there's this better spot in the members world. And it's like, it's been a few years since I've had a member sub. I don't mind resubbing just for this weird rabbit hole I'm down. Let's do it. But then I had to figure out the way to get to East Ardorn to get there because I didn't have teleports unlocked for it yet. And then it's like, yeah, but to get the best XP, you want the Varrock armor, the Varrock armor. And I'm like, I always called it Varrock growing up. I think it's maybe called Varric, but I grew up calling it Varrock because none of us knew how anything was said. And as an American, all the British English was even more confusing. And I was like, okay, how do I get that? And then I had to complete the Varrock achievement diary, the easy achievement diary, which I'd never messed with, especially as mostly a free-to-play player. So I had to start doing that and doing quests to do that, to do quests to get skills leveled up. And so I was layers deep trying to keep track of especially with ADHD, trying to keep track of each of my tasks and how they trickle up to affect what I'm trying to do was a lot. There was no way I would have been able to do that as a kid. But as an adult, I have more capacity and browser tab, like memory for browser tabs to be able to do this. And the game scales with that. And the same thing with Warframe. Like you can go in, like I started playing Warframe when it first went into beta. Like I played it on PS3. I watched Total Biscuit's early videos on it. I played for a long time and just did basic stuff. Had no clue what I was doing. And then as I got really back into it around like 2017. That's when I grounded up I made a new account, grounded my star charts, got into the end game, did some quests, whatever. I was more at a point where I could start wiki diving and figuring out all the paths and what I needed to do to actually make progress in the game. And now that I'm even further along, now I can be like, all right, I want to grind out my Nightwave stuff, which usually I make it like 3 days into and then can't stick with every day and get screwed. Or I want to beat these quests or do this thing or whatever. the game scales with me in that regard, which is an invaluable thing for a game to be able to do, that most modern games and most games built for a specific target audience just can't do. Like a game that grows with you and provides the accessibility, but the depth behind it is such a rarity these days that these kinds of games feel like of crucial value for people who want to understand video games deeper and really appreciate what they are and how someone's progression to getting into them works. I think these two are just prime examples. And with RuneScape, it's a funny thing because we have no end of amazing RPGs these days, from The Witcher to Cyberpunk to we just got Oblivion remastered to Expedition 33. There's no end of amazing RPGs that we could play, Baldur's Gate even, but yet there's some appeal to RuneScape with its cheesy music that lives rent-free and forever in my head. I even got the vinyl of it, to obviously the text-only dialogue and things like that, to the simplistic graphics and the cutesy sound effects. It allows your imagination to fill in so many gaps. Like I just went on a quest in my achievement diaries to kill a dog, which was like a monument guardian, a mausoleum guardian, that was this crazy demon dog. And like, it was just this big gray black blob. But like, I went in with my crazy armor and the skills I had built up and killed a mausoleum guardian that was set there to keep the evil mages of Zamorak from this kingdom or something. And like, when you fill in all of those gaps with your imagination and you get invested in just having fun with the fantasy of it, it's kind of better than being suspended in the kind of uncanny valley that everyone's already talked to death about modern games. I thoroughly enjoy these kinds of games, and it feels hard these days to talk about them because I think games like Warframe, games like RuneScape, games like older Halo, games like even Balatro to some degree, they provide such a wide top of the funnel, and yet the funnel can go so far that they are perfect examples of what makes gaming great and how to really get someone invested in gaming. But these days, everything is so obsessed with the most diehard, no-life, hardcore players and fans and pundits about any game franchise or genre that I feel like there's no room for casuals anymore. To learn more about my thoughts on that and what we can maybe do about it, check this video and then the card here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and remember to be kind. Rewind.